Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy, the Liberal Loudmouth. And as always, I'm here with.
The real Ron down here in Warner, Oklahoma, where it's thundering and lightning and
Mm,
fixing a tornado. And
well,
I'm excited though. I'm excited.
yeah, it's going to be a great show, y'all. It's going to be awesome. We got Tim Brooks on tonight, running for Senate District 33. Um, it's just like our other guests. It's going to be something interesting to listen
the
to.
The more you know, Tim. And I will say this. Let me turn my little light thingy on here real quick. Ooh, look at that.
Look at
Um,
look at that. Now you can see your face, Ron.
Real quick, I know that we had to postpone this 30 minutes because I had a Warner Town Hall meeting, and for everybody that didn't get to make it, I did a little video. You can go to the Real Ron page and check that out, and it explains what happened. It was a 4-minute town hall meeting because no action was taken, except they ordered some skid steer tracks or something. So, anyway,
Wow.
there's a lot going on in Warner, but we'll cover that later. I'm excited to talk to. Uh, I'm going to call him Tim B, and I'm going to call you Tim A because I don't want to get confused. I'm going to say
Yeah,
Tima, and
it'll
Tim.
be weird to have people saying Tim and referring to somebody else, or even referring to somebody else as Tim. That's odd. But there is something that we'd like to touch on, which is this yellow star thing with the Ron page.
Yeah,
So we're not sure what that is. I went to comment on his live when he was going live earlier. It's like, use 200 stars to comment here or something. And sorry, that distracted me.
sorry.
Anyway, so if you're unable to comment on the Real Ron without paying, and we're sorry for that, go to the Loudmouth's Facebook page and go to the live there so that you can comment if you're unable to do so on the Real Ron.
Yeah, because we're going to check this out because we don't get paid any money. And I don't know what the stars are, but I've had several people contact me over the last couple of days, and they're like, I was going to comment, but it wanted me to buy like 8, 10 something stars, and I'm looking on there, and some people have like 250 stars. I'm like, who's paying what? And so we're going to investigate this. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know anything about it, but I mean, if you want to, donate money to Ron page or Loudmouth, we're not going to say
yeah,
no.
we're not. Yeah, I'm going to take money all day. I mean, this
Right.
this takes money and time, and I think we provide a service, but I'm not trying to get people scammed out of whatever.
Absolutely.
If you're paying money to comment, you're not giving us money. Just stop.
Right. So, well, now that that's out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to bring on Tim, and we're going to get this conversation going.
I love it.
Uh,
I love it. I'm
Tim,
sharing. I'm
what's
sharing.
up, man?
Hey guys,
What's up? It's good to see you. Thank you for coming on the show. We
my
appreciate
pleasure.
it. Yeah. At this point, I'll just open the floor to you. If you want to start with maybe campaign platform or things that you find
Some
interesting that you want to,
background about you
yeah, some
and
background.
Yeah.
your graphic novels behind you, whatever you want to do.
Well, yeah, my name is Tim Brooks, and running for Senate District 33. Nathan Dom is terming out in 2024, and so it becomes an open seat. He's been a strong conservative, and it's really important to retain a strong conservative in that seat. We can't just let it go, and so it's really important to be running for that, and that's why I'm encouraging people to vote Tim Brooks. Some of my main things, I focus on small businesses. I'm in my office right now. We do a lot of Medicare. That's kind of the books that you see behind me. They're only graphic on the front. There's a picture, and then it's snooze fest. I sometimes when I hand those out, I tell people if you ever have trouble sleeping, just start reading the list of prescriptions.
Yeah, that doesn't look
Uh,
very exciting behind you
I
there,
I can
Tim.
attest that it's pretty rough getting through
Yeah,
that stuff. Yeah. So kudos to you, sir.
yeah. So small businesses. Then we focus there. I focus a lot on taxes, tax reform. There's things that we can do here in Oklahoma that make it more friendly for businesses and business growth. And then the third one that I really focus on is education. I've got 6 children. 5 of those are in the public education system. One is
Whoa,
the
6
youngest.
children?
Yeah.
Are
So
you
those are great.
Catholic or Mormon or what?
Nope. It's just a strong Pentecostal.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway,
So
go ahead.
yeah.
So those are kind of my main 3 that I like to talk about, but there's a lot of issues, and so usually when I door knock, I kind of start with those 3, and then I say what's important to you, what's on your mind, and give people an opportunity to tell me kind of how they think. When we have counsel together, there's a lot of opportunity for growth. And as I was running for the House district race last year, it was a great introduction to the political climate of Oklahoma and what's going on and what people care about. And so that was a great experience. I lost, but it was a great experience. And I'm very thankful for the 1,300 votes that I received. And I thought it was a pretty strong showing for someone who's brand new to the scene. And so I'm hoping to build off that and go into a Senate race.
Tim A, can I start this off real quick?
Go for it.
I want to touch on what you just said. 1,300 votes in the fourth largest town in Oklahoma, third if you don't count OU students in Norman.
Mm-hmm.
Ross Ford, who I personally know, worked with on the streets, he got 2,600 votes and beat you. In a primary election, it was less than 4,000 people, Republicans like myself, came out to vote. Now, in the general, it bumped up to 15,000 people or whatever. But that just bothers me. Why aren't Republicans like ourselves, all three of us? Tim, you're a Republican. Tim A's registered Republican as well.
I am.
Why are we getting out and doing our duty as Republicans voting in these primaries? What do you think is the problem here?
Strangely, I actually heard from a number of people that they're like, I don't vote in the primary because I don't know enough about the candidates. So I'm going to let someone else make the decision, and then I will vote in the general.
Is that really what you're – because that's un-American to me.
That's really what people said. They're like, I don't have the time, or I don't know, and I can't look into it, and so I'll just wait till the general. At least we're voting for a Republican, and that'll be fine. So I don't know if that's the case all the time. Sometimes people get busy and stuff, but that was one of the factors.
I think sadly, a lot of people don't really pay attention until something is dramatized in some way. Yeah. It's made to be sexy, if you will, where it's something interesting to watch, whereas otherwise they're just like, I didn't even know there was a, vote coming up. Half the people don't. So that's, there's got to be a way to fix that. And I know we're not going to solve that problem in this show right now, but at least it's interesting to think about it. I do have a question, though. Was there anything, and I hate to make this sound like an interview, but was there anything that you had a thought of or your own thoughts about that you may have had your mind changed throughout the course of your door knocking?
I would say that the main topics were the same. The main convictions were the same. I would say probably the delivery was refined, taking into account different people's perspective, and word choice is very important. What you say and what it conveys to other people is very important, making sure that you're able to be heard. And the very day that I filed, that evening, I got a Facebook message from someone saying, hey, I want to meet you. I was like, whoa. And the next day I met this lady and she was peppering me. What do you believe about this? What do you think about this? Why are you running about this? I mean, it was like just an onslaught. And I thought some of these questions I had never thought about. I did not have an answer. I wasn't prepared. And so that was real, that was a hit the ground running moment. And so I really kind of developed and made myself have to think about how to say it well to communicate to people.
Yeah. Yeah, because having a thought about something and being able to, speak about it with any degree of, certainty or whatever is certainly a different thing. I can imagine that was like, feet to the fire moment.
It really was.
Yeah. I bet you did some soul searching after that one, right?
I sure did. I was writing down notes after she left. I was like, okay, I need to look at this. I need to look up this. I need to go from here. Yeah.
Guys, calm down. Calm down.
Do it, Ron.
I love black people, but here's what I'm gonna say. I got to give a shout out to Austin Givens. He's down there in your neck of the woods, I believe, at Tim Brooks.
He is, yeah.
I love Austin and his positivity, and he just tagged me, and I shared it on my personal page because I love that dude. Also, can you pull up Lane Brown? He's like a stalker. He's like a stalker.
I was gonna save this for a little bit, but we can go ahead and get to it now.
Do it. Let's get into it.
Well, Lane asked, and Shelly got the same question. Do you
from
believe
Lane.
in aliens? From Lane. It was the
from
same.
Lane.
Yeah. Do you believe in aliens?
All right. Thanks, Lane, for starting us off well.
We can talk about abortion if you want to talk about abortion.
So aliens, right? I think actually Jesus addressed this. I think he talked about it like this. He said, all who came before me were thieves and liars because they didn't enter by the gate. And he's talking about these spiritual beings like devils and Satan himself coming to the earth. He said, but I came through the gate, and he was actually physically born into the earth. And so then he had a right to do the things that he did, to cast out demons, to die on the cross for us. And so he addressed that very specific issue. So these aliens, I think, are those demons. He was the first one to maybe call out illegal immigration. And he also...
I like what you did there. Tim.
Yeah.
And I also got to think, as our technology increases, I think it's only a matter of time before we're able to start seeing these things. You look at like Revelation, end times, you think, how can these creatures exist? I think it's just our ability to see them, or sense them or detect them is going to increase. And I think that's kind of the next step.
What you just said, and Tim, I'll let you take it, but
yeah, go for it.
What you just said made me feel weird, dude.
That's awesome.
Go ahead, Timmy.
So I was going to say, I wonder if, maybe the creatures from Revelations come as a result of humanity's messing with the genetic code, because now they're putting this stuff in mosquitoes so that these, genetic modifiers are spreading through mosquitoes to kill
people. This is what happens when you read books. This right here between Tim A and Tim B. This is what happens when you read books and you get educated.
Hey, I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but that's certainly and if anybody back in that time saw anything that had happened this time,
oh right,
their mind would be blown. They wouldn't understand what they were looking at, I don't think.
Right.
So anyway, moving on from the alien topic.
Yeah, let's move on from aliens and talk about Lane's next question.
Oh, let's see.
Nothing related to aliens here.
Most important question tonight: do you trust Christy to be in that seat if she somehow miraculously wins? Oh, I should have read that first.
No, we like spontaneity here.
Yeah.
If Christy wins, now she and Shelly are the only other two candidates right now. There might be a lot of other candidates.
I think there probably will be, actually. I hope they come on the show too.
During the other campaigns, sometimes there's up to 12 or 13. So that list can get pretty long. One thing I will say, maybe a positive about Christy, is that during the COVID lockdowns, she was not for mask mandates or a lockdown in Broken Arrow. And she got fired from her job because of that. So I think that there's a...
Did she get fired, though?
Well, that's what she told me. And,
okay.
And I think someone who stands for their convictions is someone that we could support.
Okay.
If they're a strong, conservative conviction.
And Tim A has gotten on to me about this a lot. I'm a little bit biased towards Christy because Christy blocked me on Facebook, and it hurt my feeling. The one feeling I had, it really hurt it. But she has since unblocked me. But since you said a positive about Christy and she's your other opponent, is there anything positive or negative about Shelly that you feel the same way about? Do you know Shelly?
I don't actually know her. I haven't had a chance to sit down and talk with her, so I wouldn't have anything positive or negative to say.
Okay.
I think that's fair.
What about – go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, now the issue with Christie's firing with the masks, this brings up an interesting dichotomy.
Oh, come at me.
Here.
Come at me.
I'm bringing it because on one hand, and I'm not saying I agree with either side, but on one hand, you have somebody who made statements or whatever that the public saw, right? And this may have, and this was the argument that our company made, may have caused their company to start losing business.
Right.
And it is a right to work state, meaning, they can let you go for various reasons. So where does that line, where do you think that line comes where we have to allow the company to be able to make decisions that will allow it to continue, making money and not be hurt by somebody versus not censoring somebody because of what they said as an employee?
Like, should a company be able to fire someone just because they don't like them?
Or because of something that they said that became controversial in the public eye that was deleterious to the company itself. So then You know what I mean? Because there's a
Yeah. I think the answer to your question has to be like whether you're on the clock or not. You know, if I'm representing one of my carriers, I work in insurance. So if I'm representing one of my carriers and I'm actually at work and I'm doing something, and I'm maybe talking about them, then I'm at work. And if I'm at work, then I have a responsibility to protect the public or protect the interests of the company. If I'm at home and I'm just doing my own thing, or if I'm running for office and I'm out doing something like that, then I'm on my own time. And for a company to penalize me on my own time, that could lead to that wrongful termination like you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. Honestly, I really do. Unfortunately, the laws they don't really protect workers in that way. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because you go for a job interview and they've already gone through your LinkedIn, they've gone through your Facebook posts. You know, anytime you apply for a job, just FYI, guys, lock all your social media stuff down as best you can because they're looking at it. You know,
well, with cancel culture the way that it is, it's easy to just to have to protect yourself.
Yeah. Listen to me, y'all. I'm gonna make this really awkward real quick.
Do it.
Because that's what I do. Tim Brooks, you're a Pentecostal, is that a Christian?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay. Tim A, the liberal loudmouth over here, he's an atheist. But he had the entire GOP and every rational parent support him. And I've heard somebody come up to Tim and say, "You're the guy that got banned from Owasso Public Schools for removing pornography from our children's schools. Why did you do that? I thought you were an atheist." And that offended me because it was implying that in order to just have decent morals, you had to have some type of religious connection. So that's as awkward as I can do, guys. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, since you brought me up, this is the thing that happened to me, and I was respectful to the guy, I was kind of like, are we really still there where, I can't have morality without religion, because I raised my kids to be decent humans, and I believe that there's a universal moral compass that we're just born with. I think these things are innate. They've done studies, and it shows babies have some morality and a moral compass as babies. So that's where I stand. Do you agree with that? Do you think?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, morality doesn't come from religion. Morality comes from God, and he created it in everything. So much so that the Bible says that when we're in nature, the very aspects of God are revealed to us. So nature is revealing morality, and whatever religion that you may ascribe to or not ascribe to, there's still the natural morality that's there. Now, the Ten Commandments would be specific to Christianity or Judaism, but and so maybe there's some kind of contrast for saying like, well, why would an atheist or an agnostic or a Hindu, for example, why would they promote a Christian idea like the Ten Commandments? But the idea that only Christians have morality, it comes from God. So, and it's everywhere.
I think that's an interesting thing that you bring up, because essentially what you're saying is whether you believe that there's a God or not, in your view, God created everything and he instilled those principles in you, whether you realize it or not. Is that okay? Sure. I think that's a fair statement, honestly. I don't think I've ever heard anybody put it that way.
I was about to say the same thing.
Yeah.
That's a good on you, Tim. That was a good statement. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. I don't think I can argue with that. And I'm still an atheist, but I appreciate that.
I don't think you're an atheist. I don't think anybody's actually an atheist. I think there's an innate something happened, something created. There is a God. Maybe agnostic. I don't know who he is, or I don't know about him, or I don't know if I can find out. But I think everyone intuitively knows something.
Well, so I used to go between agnostic.
This is going to get good. This is going to get good.
I used to go between agnostic and atheism just because I can't know. Nobody has ever shown me, nobody's coming down and talking to me. So I just choose to live life the best way that I can. And to me, if that's not good enough to be accepted, if there was a God, then maybe I didn't want to be there in the first place. That's kind of how I look at it. But I err on the side of I don't think there is anything, and that's just So I just go about my day doing what I think is right.
This is such a good show already, and we're not even 20 minutes in. I mean, it's such a good show. Lane Brown and Linda Dowdy's comments.
Yeah.
Can you speak to this, please?
Yeah, Tim, how do you feel about the establishment versus grassroots?
Yeah, so grassroots is wonderful. I think that's where you're going to get the genuine movements, genuine thoughts. I think anytime someone,
I'm sorry. Can you? What's the difference between establishment and grassroots, in your opinion?
So I'm going to say the establishment would be more like the bureaucracy. So once you start organizing something, then you start getting leadership, and leadership can be great in expanding grassroots. But generally, leaders want to retain their position. And so they stop thinking about the grassroots and activism, and they start thinking about, what can I do to keep what I have? And so revolution dies that same way. And so that's where I would look at it as, if you can have a grassroots movement, you're going to have a more genuine product.
I agree. I agree with. I mean, I'm
I
not
think
hearing anything that I disagree with.
Sir, I think that's the best way I've ever heard anybody explain the difference between the two. Seriously, I mean that. So how do you feel about that? That difference between those two.
Yeah, so sometimes people they get this idea and they campaign on, well, I'm going to blow up the establishment, right? I'm a non-establishment, I'm an outsider, I'm a this and a that. But there is just a reality. We have maybe an idealism of what we would like to see, but there's also the reality of what is. And so you have to, one, be pure in your convictions and pure in your stances, but you also have to be able to work with what's there, recognizing that some people are only there just to get their name out there and make some money maybe, or notoriety. Some people are out there to actually advance conservative agendas. Some of them are out there to stop conservative agendas. And so you have to be able to work with and know people. And I mean, you have to have enough to get a bill passed. And so going in there and just lambasting everybody who you think is establishment, that's not how you get anything done. So even though the grassroots is the more pure product, you still have to be aware of what's going on in the establishment, how can we work to make it better, and what's the future for all of us.
I'm gonna say, man, you got some good answers. I mean,
yeah. You did some real soul searching that day when she was lambasting you.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, you probably spent the next year thinking about that stuff. No,
I thought she might be a plant. She might be against me because she came in hot, and I was like, "Holy cow!"
That's probably the best thing that happened to you, though. Maybe
that
happened. Yeah, because then it really makes the wheels turn.
Yep.
It's interesting because the establishment it's going to be there, and it's going to change from one hand to another.
Right.
And to some degree, the grassroots people have to find their way within that establishment in order to change anything, because I don't know that you can actually destroy the establishment, because then you kind of have an anarchist type situation in that's leading it, because everybody's like, no, this is how it's going to, so I don't know, maybe I'm getting off in the weeds here.
No, I think you have to have both in order to, I think both have to coexist.
Right.
But right now, what I'm feeling, what I'm seeing, especially from like Nathan Dom, and you don't have to speak to Nathan Dom, but Nathan Dom is just huddled in the bunker, and he's I've got the state chair, and it's mine, and I'm going to do this, and nobody's hearing from him. We haven't had a state budget committee meeting in 2 years, and
Crazy.
It's just the establishment. You get in there, and then you got people like myself that are on the opposite spectrum. They're like, we're grassroots. We're going to run in there with pitchforks and torches and just burn this shit down, and this is what we're going to do.
Right. To some degree, some of that works. I think maybe, and forgive me, Tim, but I think maybe the way you do that is you get the grassroots to get the establishment to realize that they need to adopt those policies rather than just trying to demolish it all.
Yeah.
I think maybe that's the answer. Right?
Well, that's where you see, like, the Tea Party, for example, came in and it was strong against, and it really pulled the whole party towards the direction of the Tea Party. And so you see you see that on the opposite side as well. You see like the very fringe left, they're pulling the whole party that way, and so
Unfortunately.
you need the strong you need those strong conservatives to be making sure that our party doesn't start drifting left as well, that keeps us back on the right side.
Right.
Can we pull up Linda Dowdy's? I don't mean to
Yes.
interrupt y'all, but
No.
please
I
bring
was
that
going to
up.
get to it. Yeah. So,
Okay, sorry.
didn't the McIntosh County GOP chair question the religion when running? I am not familiar with that. Do you know what she's referring to?
I know what she's referring to. I think the question was for Tim Brooks, though. Do you know what she's referring to?
I don't know.
Okay. Medley, Miss what was Linnell Medley is the McIntosh County GOP chair.
Okay.
And we had a Muslim national committee member that we were trying to make head of the RNC for the nation. And that, as far as I know, the platform is for the RNC is Christianity based.
Right.
But yet you had a Muslim that was running, trying to take over the RNC, which I love everybody. I love black people. I love everybody. But if you are standing behind, and Don Spencer from OK2A, which I love Don, if you have a problem or a platform that says we don't allow homosexuals to marry men or whatever, so that's what she's talking about. We had a Muslim trying to take over the RNC. That's fine. Change the platform. But that's the platform. So I think that's what she's talking about. Linda, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, so I pulled up the second one, and she says, didn't the McIntosh County GOP question the religion of person running for nation GOP chairperson?
Yes.
I'm not familiar with the situation. I think I remember something about it, but what do you think of that situation?
Yeah, so I'm not like you said, I'm not familiar with the situation, but just on the question of can a Muslim run for a seat, right? Or like Don was talking about there was
Scott Pressler
coming up. Yeah. And so he questioned, like, wait a second, if our platform says one thing, are we going to adhere to it or are we not? Are we going to promote people who go against our platform in this area? Is it okay to start just abandoning our principles in all of the areas, right? So I think those make very valid points. In terms of what the platform says, it really goes back to what do we believe in? What is our party? What is our nation? What should it be? What is the ideal, and what are we working towards? And I think you also have to look at the religion. What is it promoting? Is it congruent with where we want the country to go? And so if those things don't line up, then even if the other person is maybe a strong conservative, because I've seen Muslims standing up to the LGBTQ sometimes more than Christians, because Christians sometimes think about, like, I need to love this person and let them run all over me. And so sometimes you see Muslims standing up against the liberal agenda more than Christians are, right? So are they following conservative principles? And so, but at the same time, you think of somebody who's leading the party. Where are they going to lead the party? Because I draw my convictions more from my religion, right? From God first. And so if that's where they're drawing their convictions as well, is that congruent with the party ideal? Is that congruent with where we want the nation to go? If it's not, then we couldn't vote for that person because of their religion.
Now, to people who, because the media really did a number on Islam back during, September 11th. And I think there are a lot of misconceptions about Islam. So people don't realize this, but Jesus is in the book, in the Quran.
Right.
The moral principles of Jesus are talked about at great length.
Yeah, well, Jesus is the John the Baptist figure in the Muslim religion.
Right. And these figures, it's like you're taking the same stories, but you're looking at them from different perspectives. But those morality principles, like, do unto others as, you do unto that sort of thing. There are a lot of similarities there between the religions. So if the question is, what are we working towards? If the goal is morality, then Islam, when you take the propaganda out of it and you just look at the teachings, it actually does, profess those views, those morality views, similar to Christianity.
I'm not sure that I'm gonna agree. I'm not sure I'm gonna agree with that.
Don't agree with it. Tell him what you feel.
Yeah,
this is what we're here for.
No, I think the way that I talk about, like when I tell my children, right, I say someday you are going to question your faith, and you should. You should be able to challenge the scriptures, challenge the Bible, challenge God and Jesus, because he can withstand the scrutiny. You can publicly say, I don't believe this. I have questions about this. I have problems with the way this is written or the wording of this or anything about the Bible. And it can withstand the scrutiny. I'm not sure that that's the same with any other religion. I think once you start criticizing certain religions, I think you start getting a lot of backlash, and it can't handle it. And so I think that's one derivative that shows you what's right, what's true, and what isn't true.
Yeah, and I think that kind of goes back to media propaganda also, where you like the
the United States needed an enemy, and so
right, and it painted. I think it painted unfairly a lot of people that, because there's so many people in the Nation of Islam that are great people. I mean, they live for morality. So I don't know how fair it is to paint everybody that is a Muslim in a, we
can't do broad strokes about any group.
Yeah,
I mean, y'all can't, but I can. I don't follow the Nation of Islam. I think Louis Farrakhan is the devil, and I'll say that out loud. Can we pull up? I'm trying to keep the show going because y'all are going to end up fighting. Matt Griffiths.
Yeah, this is a good.
We got a lot of great, some new people that I don't even know. Thank you for the comment, Matt, and then Angela after that.
Yeah, so you don't have to agree with every single thing on the platform to be a Republican, but we all have values, and what's most important to me may not be what's most important to someone else.
That's true.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit yesterday too with Wayne. That nobody's going to agree on everything.
Right.
But that's what America is, right?
Yes.
Nathan Dunn actually said that. He said even he and his wife don't agree on everything. She thinks he's the best, and he thinks she's the best.
That's my mother. My mother used to tell me all the time. The only argument I ever had with your father was over religion because he thought he was God and I didn't.
That's funny.
Anyway, go ahead.
So we got a question. What was the WHO declaration signed regarding states having no say? Know anything about that?
There's been a lot of push from who in terms of who has the authority, right? Like what is this public health emergency? Does that somehow trump rights? Does that trump national sovereignty? Does this this body, international body, have authority over other people? We see that in New Mexico where they say, apparently there's some gun violence, and so we're going to remove your rights. Now, gun violence in and of itself is terrible. The people who are getting harmed and killed is terrible. But then to just say, and we're just going to universally strip you of your right, we can't be doing that kind of stuff. And we can't let anybody try to exert that authority over the United States or any state.
Yeah, I would disagree with any international body trying to make any statements about what we can and can't do to anybody. Right. I'd say to hell with that. It's America, son.
Tell us how you really feel, Tim.
Yeah, come on. I don't know about a declaration that's saying that the states have no say, but I can't imagine that would ever hold up in a court of law.
It wouldn't hold up in my front yard. Who?
No. Bring
so Linda says, so freedom of religion in America only pertains to Christian. I want your view. We've talked to Shelley and Wayne and a bunch of different other people, but does freedom of religion only pertain to Christianity in America?
It doesn't, right? It's freedom from a state imposed religion is what it actually is. And so the religions can operate freely and the state can't set up a religion. Sometimes we get this idea that that church and the state have to be separate, right?
Go ahead and say it. Separate. What's your viewpoint on separation of church and state, I guess?
I think the founding fathers were religious. Right? And many of them were Christians, devout Christians. And that's one of the reasons that we have the nation that we have today, because it's founded on Judeo-Christian principles. And so I think that's a misinterpretation, and we miss the issue when we go with that. But because the state cannot impose a religion, then people are free to follow whatever religions they want, and they do.
Yeah.
So do you think that Judeo-Christian values and teachings should be forced into public schools on children that worship Buddha or Allah or the dolphin, unicorn princess, whatever
Rastafarianism.
right, whatever other religion they practice, because they have freedom of religion? Do you think that we, like Ryan Walters, for example, I love Ryan. I've had him in my backyard. I helped get him elected because I think he's going to do some good for the schools here. But he is like insisting on pushing this PragerU Christian 10 Commandment stuff into public schools. And I don't think that's what freedom of a religion represents. Do you have any pushback on that?
I would say this: we've been so accustomed to the slow drift to the left that anybody who's pushing something to the right seems like a radical. Ryan Walters is doing a fantastic job. He has put a strong pull to the right, trying to hold accountable a failing public school system. And I've kind of posited some ideas about like why our public schools are failing, why those things are happening. But he is putting pressure on them to say it's not good enough for Oklahoma to be 48th, 49th, in our academic outlook, that these kids can't read. And so if the method that he uses to fix our schools is PragerU, absolutely. Because our school board in Tulsa is not doing it. And
I'll say this, Tim A., you kind of have paralleled this, because Tim has said Ryan's going to go in there and piss these people off and do the exact. You have to break an egg to make an omelet, I guess. You can't get worse than the worst. And he's going to hold people accountable and get people upset enough that change happens.
Well, and the Tulsa Public Schools already had been warned on their accreditation. So he's just continuing the process, maybe more forcefully and more quickly. But I mean, in the time it has taken for them to get this far, kids have gone from kindergarten through 12th grade, and they're now adults and can't do math or read.
Tell the story. Tim used to be in the Tulsa public school system. Did you not?
Yeah, in elementary, it was terrible. It was absolutely horrible. And this was way before Deborah Gist. And I've got to say, I think that those districts that are just that huge, that have so many societal, root issues like poverty, extreme poverty, I don't know that you can just do the things that it's going to take a lot more than what he's proposing. I think that now what he's doing, I think, is in the right direction.
Right.
And I get liberals getting after me all the time on Twitter because I'm like, look, why are y'all defending Tulsa public schools for any reason whatsoever?
Yeah, maybe pick a school that's not failing.
Right. It's a terrible school. Like, I mean, the teachers there are great, but those teachers are so overwhelmed. Yeah. They are so overwhelmed, and I think it's going to take a lot more resources to get Tulsa back in. And
I'm not sure that the resources are necessarily the answer. I would actually say, because I heard the statistic that we get 10% of our school funding from the federal government, but with that come 90% of the regulations. I think that if we cut that 10% or just replaced it with something else and divested ourselves from all of those federal strings, I think we would have such a freedom in our classrooms to actually be able to teach the kids instead of doing all these like checkmark assessments, that we would immediately see an improvement.
Well, if we're willing to spend 10% more on a state level, then we should probably start spending 10% more on a state level, and then we can deal with the removing the federal money, because we already spend less than other states.
Yeah, but Tim, if you spend 10% more on a state level without taking away the federal, then that's just a given. They're not going to take away the federal. They're just going to spend 10% more.
My point is that we're already not spending enough per student.
I disagree.
Now, I think the money is not going to the students. I mean, I was at a school the other day, and they were like, "Hey, we're going to introduce you to the new assistant principal." This school hasn't had an assistant principal. Why is this position being filled now? Why do we have more administrative staff than actual teachers? So the money that's going is being siphoned away from the classrooms.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
that
I don't disagree with that, but I don't think that the amount of money we're spending, I don't think the majority of it's going to administration.
I will
I
I
don't
will
think
clarify what I said. I don't disagree with we need more per pupil expenditure, but that money is like y'all just said, it's not going to the student or the teacher, it's
Right.
going to the administration.
Well, or it's just being misused because there's no enforcement mechanism up to Ryan really that has been willing to go in there and say, no, look, you can't do that. We're going to keep our eyes on you to make sure you're doing it right. But then again, we also have a very separated state and local governance in Oklahoma, where municipalities and local school districts have a lot of their own controls.
Right.
Now, I'm all in favor of getting rid of the federal, the block grants and stuff for public education. But if we are willing to spend 10% more just to not do what the federal government tells us to do, then we should have already been spending 10% more.
I agree with that. I agree with
I-
that.
I-
Yeah.
Like, if we can find that money, let's find the money now and let's just jumpstart everything. And then once we get in a level of equilibrium, then we can start removing those federal dollars. I think that's a fair way to go about that, but that's just me. Who am I? I'm just a liberal turned Republican, right?
Yeah. We got somebody commenting
Okay.
from YouTube.
Well, let me get to that. I was wanting to get to this.
Okay,
Andrew
go ahead,
Harris
yeah.
says, can we fall back on state constitution? What are you? What are your
Oh,
thoughts on
yeah,
that?
that's a good question. And thank you, Angela, for asking that.
Yes.
I don't know Angela. Do you know Angela?
I don't know Angela. No.
I don't think I know, Angela. So the state constitution, when it relates to funding of public schools, is that what she's talking about?
No, I think we weren't talking about the
Religion.
education at the, yeah,
Or
it was
who
religion.
or yeah.
I think that is a generalized statement, meaning like, stick more towards, state constitution versus federal.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, because like the power of emergency declarations isn't with our federal government. It's not with the WHO, right? It hasn't been given to them, enumerated by our Constitution. So then it rests with each individual state.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so VR Bro says, Ron, it's me, Ethan.
Yeah,
what's
I
up,
don't-
Ethan.
I don't know if this is a setup or what. I just asked him a question. I do know an Ethan from a baseball team called the Raptors that I coached, but this might be a setup type deal. So
Was CCP always involved in Tulsa Public Schools, Little Red classrooms? Do you know of any of that stuff going on in your district? That
I've
you're
heard about
running
it, that
in?
they're kind of like washing money. I think that type of thing is happening all over. I think there's lobbyists and there's people who are funneling money in one direction or another to try to get their point across. I would not be surprised at all if they're trying to push a communist agenda in the same way that during the Cold War, the same thing was happening with communism then. It's people coming in and trying to subvert democracy, our republic, and promote an ideology or a political system that would undermine it. So it's no different.
Do you remember a guy? He was a Russian. He was Russian KGB, and Bezmenev, or I can't think of his name. Yuri Bezmenov, maybe. Does that ring? a
wow,
bell?
where does this come from? What are you doing?
Well, give me a second. Yes, Yuri Bezmenov. So there's a YouTube video of this guy. This was back in, I think, the late 70s, early 80s. And he essentially said that Russia had been, there was this long game that they were playing with the U.S. where they were filling our media with propaganda. They were pushing this propaganda to get where people couldn't tell what was fact and what was fiction. They couldn't discern truth from fiction, to the point where we would just end up kind of destroying ourselves. And we're like watching that right now. So Russia and China have kind of gotten together. Do you think we have any danger with Russia and China on a state level, do you think?
No. So I hear some of this kind of stuff, right? This is like the news is like Russia, 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 China, 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 like the end of the world is coming and all of that kind of stuff. But I'm not a pessimist. I'm not a cynic. I'm an optimist. And when they say America's falling, America's past its prime, absolutely not.
I get that you're a positive dude.
Yeah.
Now, I put the link in here for others to read about this video and to watch the video. It's kind of creepy, the parallels that this guy is talking about.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised that these people are trying to undermine us in the same way that, the CIA, going to other countries and imposing their leaders and trying to install democracies, putting up we think about like the Vietnam War, right, or Korea or any of those types of things that we're involved with. It would not be surprising for another country to look at us and think, if I can take them out. So that would be surprising.
Without firing a shot.
Yeah, so we also have like this rise of like alternative media as well, where we think of like what's going on with CNN, how far left have they drifted, and so up comes Fox News, just rising, and then they get bought, and what happens? Breitbart comes on, or another type of show comes on to try to move us back to the right because that's what people are interested in, and they see like, oh, this is kind of turning into propaganda, moving to the left, and so there's a new organization that comes up. I think plenty of other countries, they don't trust their media. And so certain medias that we have, we can also see, I can tell this is propaganda, what they're telling me.
Yeah. Do you remember the fairness doctrine?
I've heard that.
Where it used to be, if you were a news organization, you had to present both sides of the thing that you were talking about in terms of like politics. It basically forced them to weigh both sides.
Yeah.
And
I think just as a thinking individual, you should be able to do that.
You should, but there are a lot of people don't have time. They get off work, and the last thing they want to do is troll on the internet, to root out this information. So I think it would be nice to have a neutral platform again, like what me and Ron do here. Honestly, I don't want to toot my own horn, but toot.
Yeah. Toot. Let me ask. Let's take it down a notch. Y'all are being too in depth. Let's chill just a little bit. Let's have some fun here. If you were elected as Senate District 33's senator, and there was a vote for that all your constituents, every one of them, emailed you and said, "We want to make abortion legal. I want you to vote yes for abortion." Would you be able to vote yes, or because of your religious convictions? And we need to ask Shelly this too, and Christy if she has a pair on her. What would your vote be? Would you vote the way you and your convictions, your religious convictions, told you to vote, or would you vote as the tool you are for your constituents?
So the tool I am is a democratic idea, a democracy. But we are not a democracy. We are a republic where people vote for people and they vote. And so they would be voting for me, and I would be in office, and I would vote my convictions, and they voted for me to vote my convictions. And so I would vote no.
So if you got, and I've had this conversation with JJ Dossett. I love JJ. He was a Democratic. He was a senator, wasn't Tim?
And Dana Prieta. We also had this conversation with Dana.
Yeah. And JJ sent me a deal and said, listen, I had 128 people email me and say, vote this way. I had 113 people email me and say, vote this way. I have to vote with my constituents. And I respected that. Yeah. And I think that's the way our republic is set up. You may disagree, but I've had so many conversations. Go ahead.
Yeah, it comes down to like, what's the issue, right? Is it a waterway, a bridge over the Arkansas River that maybe would like extend here south Broken Arrow if we took Elm and just cross the Arkansas River and the development there? Like, is that a moral issue that matters, like that really matters? Or is it just a policy thing that can change? And if we had 128 people who said, yes, let's put a bridge there, and 113 who said no, sure, no problem with that.
Yeah, I think the difference would be whether one is a core belief that you have,
Right.
just a moral conviction versus a maybe a policy dispute that doesn't play into that. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, to quote a somewhat notorious politician, deeply held religious beliefs, right?
Who is that? I don't know who that is. Who is that?
I've heard it before, but I'm not sure I can put a name on it.
I believe that's Hillary Clinton.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Whatever.
yeah, Hillary Clinton. Oh man, I don't want to make her list. That's all I'm saying. Okay.
Epstein didn't hang himself. Ugh.
Oh man. So the CCP information came from parents. So if y'all want to know more about that, you can go there. This is just for the audience. Um, oh yeah, this is an interesting topic here. Something like putting a pause on the Second Amendment, like the New Mexico governor did. That was the when I first heard this story, I was like, okay, I thought she was just saying she was going to do that as like a, just to troll the people, and then I found
No,
out
her ignorant ass
that
went out there and did it.
she
Yeah.
actually, and I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And then you ask, because they have emergency powers. Is I'm going to go on a limb here and assume that you would never do that.
No, absolutely not. I mean, it's the same thing like during COVID. Now, suddenly people don't have the right to talk about or criticize or like question, where's
Right.
this money coming from? What's going on with the vaccine? What's going on with masks? Can we not talk about them? I think
Yeah.
the opposite is true. You take all the guns away from a population, and then the criminals have the guns. The sheriff came out and said, "I am not enforcing this order." Our sheriff came out, when he was talking about the pistol braces, said, "I am not enforcing these unconstitutional orders." Right? I think the opposite is true. If you said, "You know what? We've got so much gun violence in this area that we are going to buy guns for every household that is able to buy guns. We're going to go through training over the next 6 months, and every one of these men, women, and old enough, like 18-year-olds, are going to be able to know how to use a firearm responsibly. And this whole place is going to be carrying." You imagine crime would drop because nobody wants to get shot. They have these ideas that they can go shoot whoever they want. Power.
That is,
Right.
I think it's Sweden or Switzerland. Every household has a gun, and they're trained,
Well,
and
you
their
think of
crime
Israel as
their
well.
crime rate is like zero.
Yeah.
Of course, they have.
Everyone goes through the military. They know what to
They
do.
they also, they don't deal with a lot of the social issues that we have. But yes, I think the comparison is fair. But then you have places like South Korea, I believe South Korea, where every 18-year-old, I think it's 18, it might start at 16, they have to go in the military. It's mandatory 2-year military service after high school. Well, their version of high school,
Right.
and they're trained to use firearms and stuff. So that to me, I feel like that is something that maybe we should do, because when I was younger, I wouldn't have agreed. But now that I'm older, I'm like, I feel like 2 years serving, in some capacity in
A
learning these
societal
things.
cause, yeah,
Right.
something, yeah.
Because then, because to me, I do believe the Second Amendment is often the part of the militia is overlooked, because back then we didn't have a standing army to speak of really, and the people that really had to come out and fight were the militia.
Yeah.
So the 16-year-olds, they had to have a musket, they had to have so many balls, they had to have so many pounds of gunpowder that was dry and ready to go. But that was then, and now we have this. So do you think that you would be in favor of something like that? I just off the wall question, not that it matters, but
Citizen militia, or
Yeah, like
even
the-
like deputizing individuals. I mean,
Yeah.
one of the things that the sheriff said down in New Mexico is he said his brother had been robbed and shot at, to that effect, and he said, "We're not really first responders. You are the first responder in your situation. We're going to come later. We're latent responders. We're going to get there, but
Right.
you are the first responder. And I'm not going to tell you that you can't have a gun, that defend yourself, to respond to the situation, to
Right.
protect your life."
Yeah, yeah. Now, do you think that it's okay to have, because like the First Amendment, they have been able to regulate time, place, and manner of speech. Like if you're going to do a protest and it's disruptive and it's not an immediate issue, something that just came out, you have to get permits and all this stuff. Do you think that could also be applied to the Second Amendment, where say you have like the Owasso gathering, just as an example. Now you've got a whole bunch of people in a small place. Do we want every single person that's there with a gun? I mean, you know what I mean? Because that could spell disaster. If not, is that something that can be regulated? What do you think?
You don't see Republicans carrying guns shooting people. If you get a gathering and everyone's hanging out together, and they're doing something, they're not getting angry and shooting people. That's not what's happening. And so even if they vehemently disagree on a policy platform, they're still not pulling out their gun and shooting someone if they have one on them. So I wouldn't be concerned about that. I mean, I go to church and I am sure that there's people that in the audience that have a gun. I am not concerned about it.
We know somebody brought 2 guns.
Nikki Two Guns. I miss her. I really do.
I haven't heard from her in a while. Sorry, when you said that in a church, it made me think of that. That was good stuff. Well, we've got 5 minutes left here, so
Please bring up Maddie's last comment.
Let's see. Now anyone can have balls, even girls. Thank you for that, Maddie.
I'm sorry.
I hadn't even thought about this side of the thing. Yeah, how do you feel about that? How do we weigh the rights of people who, whether we believe them or not, they feel like they're boy or girl and that wasn't their biological sex? How do we weigh that against the society's need to kind of keep order, I guess?
And let me say this before you answer that. Tim and I actually had like a little. We've been going over this for years.
We had a little argument earlier.
We had a little argument about it. It was like, you can piss off, Tim. Yeah.
So yeah. Go. What do you think?
There was once a book I read by Frank Peretti, and this lady, she was going through kind of an existential crisis, and she was like, there is no right and wrong. Everything is like relative. And she was going through this process, and she was sitting in her bathroom with her back against the tub. And she was just leaning there against the tub. And eventually she had this thought. She goes, wait a second, this tub is firm. It doesn't move. She leaned back against it. It's not moving. This is an immovable thing to her right then, right? And so she started thinking, well, if this doesn't move, what else is fixed? What else doesn't move? Your sex is fixed. We cannot change XY chromosomes. You cannot change XX, XY. You cannot do it.
You can't. You can't do it, Tim.
It can't be done. I mean, you can change.
This isn't a matter of this. And before you get going, I want to say this is not a matter of sex. It is a matter of gender. This is a mental thing, right? We're not saying that.
This is where we were arguing because he's talking about somebody's feelings and mental illness versus physical shit.
I brought up the case. There's a show that it's like a documentary, and it goes over these weird mental disorders where there are people that will literally eat their hair until they kill themselves because they just keep eating hair or forks, glass. You have people that eat glass. So we have a lot of these kind of weird quirks about the brain, and one of those is that their brain doesn't match the sex, and this is
like a gender dysphoria.
Yes, gender dysphoria. This is a documented mental disorder where when they express themselves as the other sex, they feel better, right? They feel like they're
don't
supposed
feel better. They might seem to feel better. They might have some temporary relief, and then you look at the suicide rates and you look at the depression among like the trans community. That's not better.
But how much of that is because they said the same thing about gay people, but we know that gay people have been castigated in society for a long time. So how much of the suicide is the result of public shaming versus an internal? Now, I'm not suggesting I'm not suggesting that trans people don't also have other problems that go along with it.
Right. So I think kind of coming back to like our society and our culture, right? We're a nation of laws. And so there are certain laws that pertain to certain people. And so if I just decided today, I feel like the president of the United States, I don't suddenly get the rights and privileges of the president of the United States.
That's a great point.
If I say I'm 65, I now want the senior discount when I go to McDonald's. that doesn't suddenly get me the rights and privileges of someone who's 65. Or if I say I want to go to college on a GI Bill and I've served in the military, but I feel like I deserve that. I feel like I've served my community. And so, but I don't get the rights and privileges of that. And so when someone says, I want to be a cat and I want to go to school as a cat, I don't suddenly get the rights and privileges of a cat in school where they put litter boxes in the bathrooms. No, cats don't belong in school, so you can't go. We don't just suddenly change our society and allow people to just move back and forth with the rights and privileges of the groups.
So if you had a biological woman, what would be the benefit to be a man? What would be the reward that you're trying to get for being the man? Because with the the aged person, whatever, you get a 10% discount, or if you try to be a veteran, you get this, or if you're a president, you get this. But what do they get?
Attention.
That could be one as well. They might see some kind of there's all sorts of this idea of a gender wage gap in between the genders. So if they say, well, if I'm a man, I might get paid more, right? But what's the job that they're doing to create such the comparison that they're making?
Listen, we're at an hour, but
We are. We could go on all day. Because
all day on
I don't
this.
know
Yeah,
that I respect what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, and
he really does. We argue about this all the time.
It's an issue. I don't think that's going to go to bed for a while. I think this is going to be something that that our society kind of has turmoil over.
Well, we see the governor of this state, putting things in place to protect, women during this transition time where we figure out what is this and what are we going to do about it.
Yeah. See, so the bathroom thing for me, and I'll just leave it at this, I guess, but I understand not wanting boys in a girl's bathroom. I get that. That makes sense to me. But I am worried that we are going to publicly shame somebody who, let's just say, they just want to dress up like a girl and treat those people differently. And, if we just look at it that way, I want people to just treat everybody else, no matter what their problems are, like
Sure.
they're human beings. That's what I wish we could just kind of say, you know what, you might be weird, but that's okay. You're
Well,
right.
and I'll say this. I agree with Tim, and I've actually spoke at school board meetings, made speeches about this. If you want to come to school dressed as a girl and that's the way you feel and that's your
Right.
feelings, that's fine. But you can't go into the girls or the boys' bathroom. You have to go into like a separate bathroom.
Yep, you don't get the rights and privileges.
Right. You made the choice to dress as a girl, and you're whatever, you're a boy. But you don't get to walk in and take my daughter's rights to privacy away in the girls' bathroom.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we're going to answer the
Oh my gosh.
all the questions of the world in this episode. Maybe if we had just 10 more minutes, we could.
Yeah, probably.
I don't know. We got Tim Brooks here, so I think this man would figure it out one way or the other.
Tim, are you done with us, or would you like to come back on sometime? And
No, that'd be great. I mean, this is a long race. We've got next year in April is when actually the filing season is. In June, the primary. I plan to be around for the general election, maybe even a runoff, depending on how that works. And so, absolutely, I'd love to be back. I really appreciate the opportunity to be with you guys tonight.
Yeah, man. Thank you. I got to say, it's been a great,
it was a great show. It was a great show.
You've got my mind, opened up a little bit. So I appreciate that. Some of the things you said.
I'll say this. I was like, man, he's gonna be a dud. He's like a Ron Howard looking Opie. But it was. I really appreciate you coming on. It was a good show.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ron.
Yeah, it was. All right. Do you have anything else that you want to say, Ron?
You got some? I don't have anything
Tim?
except Tim. Do you got some websites, or you got your?
Yeah.
My website, votetimbbrooks.com. Feel free to reach out to me. That'd be great.
Okay, let me copy and make sure I'm writing this correctly. I'm going to put it in the chat for everybody so they can go there, as I do for all the candidates. Oh, I put vote Time Brooks. That doesn't work.
That
I won't
doesn't
get you
work.
there.
That doesn't work. Okay, see, and that's why I test it first to make sure I didn't do something like that.
Whoever Angela is, thank you for watching. Those were some great questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, appreciate that. And let me change it from Time to Tim. there we are. Okay, guys, that is his website. You have 30 seconds, Tim? Say whatever you want to say. Go for it.
One last little quick thing about Nathan Dom, right? You had mentioned he kind of dropped off the face of the planet, but I would say he's newly married. He's got a brand new baby, and I don't have any bad feelings about them taking some time, especially when they have to keep going back into second session, coming up here this next month. And so I have no problem with that. So, new dad, I've got kids. I know how it goes, but he is a strong conservative, and he'll be right back at it before too long.
Awesome. Well, thank
Fair
you,
enough.
sir. It has been an absolute pleasure. If you want to hang out, I'm going to go ahead and pull you out. If you want to
Sure.
hang out and talk to us after, me and Ron are just going to finish off the show as we always
That's
do.
great.
And we'll see you in a couple of minutes.
All right, thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. Ron, that
I
was-
I
that
I
was
don't
good
like
shit.
it. Was good. It was great stuff. I don't like Nathan Dom though, but whatever.
I mean, everybody's got their opinion, and that's
Right.
that's everybody has a right to it, especially on this show.
No, that dude, he was surprisingly a good guest. I mean, I don't want to say that and make him feel bad, but I was really impressed with his articulate delivery, and
Yeah.
I
Oh,
could
yeah.
see why he pulled 30% against Ross Ford. I really can.
Oh yeah, yeah. He, the way he was able to communicate some of those things, like especially the religious stuff, I had never heard it put that way. So,
Right.
So it gives me some things to think about also.
Yeah.
It was great. It's great stuff, and I'd
His
like to have
voice
him back
never
on.
his voice never raised. Like my voice, I will like last night with Wayne, I was like, you haven't heard whatever.
Right. Well, it's he's in a position where I think that serves him best to make sure. he
That's probably why I'll
measures
never
that.
get elected to anything. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it is what it is. But to everybody that's watching, thank you guys so much.
Go
for your
follow
participation.
Loudmouth. Go.
Yes,
We're fixing to make some changes, and we're going to build this brand Loudmouth.
Loudmouth. Yeah. So, and if you want to donate money, this is the first time we've ever said it, but you're welcome to. That we're not going to tell you no, but we're going to get those stars figured out so that you guys can make those comments for free. Because I don't want anybody to have to pay to make a
Right.
comment.
I've been going while we were doing the show. People were commenting other places that they couldn't get to the show, so we got to figure this out. And also, if you like Green Country Lifts, Cornerstone Fence, if you have a business that you want us to promote, we can do little videos and promote your business while we're doing the show and take a little commercial break and whatever. This is what we want to do.
Right. It is. Ron and I enjoy it. We love having interesting people on, like Tim, especially. Great conversation. Everybody can learn a lot from everybody.
And
you
I'll
just
say
gotta sit
this.
down and talk.
I'll say this, Tim. Warner Cow Chip Day is October 14th. I'm trying to get some council members and some Chamber of Commerce members to come on a show with you and I to promote Warner Cow Chip Day. So that
sounds like some bullshit to me.
It sounds like some
Sounds like
bullshit.
some
Bingo.
bullshit to me. Yeah. No, that does sound like a good time, and hopefully I can make it up there. It's only 9 hours away. It's it's a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
Really. But that's all I've got for now. Ron, you got anything else?
We got Melissa P coming on next
Yes.
Tuesday.
Yeah, on the 26th at 11 a.m. So y'all tune in.
I'm
That'll be the
excited
next-
about this one, dude.
Yeah, that'll be the next guest we have on, and we're looking forward to having that conversation.
Yes, sir.
All right,
That's it.
We'll see everybody then. Thank you so much. We'll catch you next time.
See ya.
Peace.